Dr. Levy, how can we organize to change the minds of local governments that have laws or regulations they say don't allow programs like this? Examples are laws against TNR, bans on the feeding of outdoor cats, requirements in animal control contracts that cats not be returned to their habitat, ordinances that permit or require animal control to pick up so-called nuisance and stray cats, not just dogs, or even laws that require cat owners to keep their cats indoors or on their property.
Well, this certainly is a common situation that is faced in many communities. And I think the first thing to do, though, is to actually pull a copy of the law and make sure that's what it really says, because we have repeatedly found that law enforcement agencies and animal control agencies are working a lot of times off of tradition or off of internal policy that's not actually legislated in local laws. So very often when you go and you look for the letter of the law, you have much more flexibility than we thought we had. However, some of the laws are draconian and they do have these kinds of obstacles in them, in which case it's up to us to have some lobbying effectiveness of our own. So in those cases it's important to get together a small group of respected community leaders and to address policymakers as a group with data showing why these things need to change. We recently had a little experience in our community government where we wanted to change some adoption policies in our shelter, and we took one of the largest philanthropists and our grant organizer, and we went one by one into county offices meeting with our commissioners and our county managers, and they were very relieved to see that we weren't asking for money, because everybody normally asks for money. We just wanted the flexibility to help the shelter do a better job. And it was amazingly successful. And so almost overnight, policies changed, and the shelter director was then liberated to be more creative and flexible in their job. But then if it does come time to revise the code, and I would recommend thinking long and hard before doing that, because we have seen disasters such as Tallahassee, Florida, where a fairly innocent attempt was made to change a code, and then trap, neuter, return opponents got wind of it, and they ended up with a code that very literally prohibited TNR. So that backfired. So if the code could be better but nobody's enforcing it, or it's not getting in the way, I would probably leave it alone. However, I would like to share some examples of the Jacksonville Municipal Code, which is my favorite code for community cats. And it starts with some description of why the code is written this way, and it says that the city recognizes the need for innovation in addressing the issues presented by feral, free roaming, and other community cats. To that end, it recognizes that there are community cat caregivers and acknowledges that properly managed community cats may be part of the solution to the continuing euthanasia of cats. And I have personally never seen a municipal code before that is so poetic in explanations of why it looks the way it does. And if we can look at the next slide, it defines community cats as any free-roaming cat, to catch my slides up, that may be cared for by one or more residents of the immediate area who are or are not known, and a community cat may or not be feral. So this is amazingly flexible. It acknowledges that there might be someone caring for the cat, but we may not know who they are, and that community cats include friendly cats as well as feral cats, and that community cats shall be distinguished from other cats by being sterilized and ear-tipped. Qualified community cats are exempt from licensing, stray, and at-large provisions of this ordinance, and may be exempt from other provisions directed towards owned cats. Again, very friendly, supportive language that is there to encourage TNR but not to penalize our friendly, free-roaming cats. On the next slide, they get into more detail about community cat management and require that cats be sterilized, vaccinated against rabies, and ear-tipped. What I love is that it says if a person is providing care, the cats must be fed daily and cats must not be allowed to suffer. But it actually doesn't require that there be a known caregiver. And there is a caregiver certification program that may be implemented by the city. And this is important because sometimes we have caregivers who are a nuisance, and so in that case, the city can step in and try and educate that caregiver and certify them, but it does not require a caregiver registration or education program. So again, extremely flexible, and the code only addresses people when there's a problem. And then just a couple other sort of unrelated code changes that I'd encourage other people to look at if they're updating their code is we're always trying to shorten the length of stay of pets in shelters and get them out sooner. So they have defined litters of puppies and kittens less than 6 months old without a nursing mother have no required hold stay. The reason for this is we don't ever want puppies and kittens to be forced to stay in the shelter, especially if it's a shelter that has the risk of disease. It's much better for them to go straight into foster or to get adopted right away. And we do believe the reason to have a hold period for stray animals is so that the owner can find them if they're lost. But we know that litters of puppies and kittens don't run away in mass, and so there probably isn't an owner out there looking for them. And so it's far better not to require hold periods for juveniles, and that's what this code says. They also specifically exclude feral animals from a hold period. This is very important because effective and efficient shelter-neuter return programs need to get those cats out immediately. In Jacksonville, the cats are transferred immediately to the spay-neuter program on the day they come into the shelter. So they're booked in on paper, but they stay in their traps and they're picked up twice a day. There is no reason in the world we would ever want to force a shelter to hold feral cats. It's cruel to the cats and it consumes resources. And then they describe an interesting intervention, which is to allow spay and neuter to happen during the required stray hold period, which is an ungodly 6-day period in Jacksonville. But they say that due to the low reclaim rate and high euthanasia rate for cats, all cats that do not have a positive traceable identification may be sterilized immediately upon intake and placed in adoption as soon as 2 days after impound. So they still have to hold them 6 days, but they can start moving the cats through the system earlier.